so honored to have with me community advocate Kimberly Warmsley, and she's someone that I admire. She wears many, many hats and is such a model for change and making things better in our community. Welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Dr. Julie Brown. I appreciate you, and it's right back at you.
I'm so excited to have you here today, and we're going to talk about yet another hat that you want to wear as if you weren't doing enough, and always just motivated with energy. You seem tireless. I'm excited because you have a new plan for how to make things better in our community.
Yes, ma'am. I'm excited to share with you.
So let's just dive in. Let's talk about what you're doing.
All right. So in August of 2019, I was still chairing the Democratic Party, and I had found out that our current city council member for District 6, Jesus Andrade, was not running for re-election. And so I decided to form a committee, Warmsley for Stockton City Council District 6, to explore the possibility of running. And so shortly after, when nominations for that seat was open, I filed to run for Stockton City Council District 6.
That's exciting. And talk about the boundaries. What does that district encompass in Stockton?
So it encompasses the southwest area, off of Fresno all the way down to B Street. It also incorporates some pockets off of Charter Way, Little John Creek, and of course Western Ranch, where I live currently. Sierra Vista is a part of that district, and the new development behind that, and some of the older communities like the quote unquote Crow Valley. I mean, I've lived in every element of the district, so that was one of the older descriptions, was the Crow Valley homes, which is like the older Stockton area development. Sacramento Street, probably nearly about I don't know, maybe about 27,000 constituents in District 6. Very diverse community, of course. Very diverse in classisms and socioeconomic statuses.
And I was going to mention that's one of the areas in Stockton that may have a lot more challenges than other areas. It's a high poverty area. It's a food desert. It also has food swamps, and we can talk about that. And it's hard. It's hard to make an impact in that area because there aren't a lot of resources. And I'm hoping, to me, if anyone can make a difference, you have the power to make a difference and bring in resources and give people hope and motivation to improve their lives.
Yeah, that's and thank you for saying that. I think that for me, one of the biggest pluses for this campaign is that I am a social worker. I'm a licensed clinical therapist and have been one for quite some time. I've done a lot of advocacy for the district in bringing social services programming alongside of even providing free mental health services to the community, and mothers who have lost children, individuals who are experiencing trauma, because as we know, trauma comes in all fashions and forms, from environmental trauma to the loss of losing someone, and just, the distress that sometimes life brings to you. In my earlier times of advocacy, I've done a lot of job fairs, bringing in jobs to the community. And because at this time I have a lot of support and backing from our unions, our local unions, I'm anticipating that those conversations will continue once I'm elected.
And I'm thrilled to hear you have the backing of unions, and I've had unions on the show before, and unions are pivotal to our community.
Yes.
Because they're paying fair wages, and it's a way for someone who may not be cut out for college to gain a skill. And there's tons of support through the union. They offer lifelong work, and it's magnificent. And it's saddened to me that over the past decade and even 2 decades, the value of the unions really hasn't been appreciated. And I think there's a resurgence now, and we need unions now more than ever.
Absolutely. And just thinking back to that and furthering that conversation, unions were the ones who have fought effortlessly for middle class and for against child labor laws. So,
and workers' rights.
Yes. And workers' rights. And they really have been pivotal in the quest for equality and equity for individuals. So I've had excellent conversations with union establishments about how to bring that to our community, especially a community like District 6, who has a lot of poverty. There's a lot of poverty. Many of the individuals who live in the community do commute, and that's unacceptable. I mean, think of the quality of mental health for these individuals. Think of the quality of life for these individuals. Think about the family dynamics when we have parents who are driving 2 hours at any given time up and back to the Bay Area to get jobs. So,
and kids don't see their family. Right. And not only that, just from a tax standpoint, if you are investing in your current citizens, they're going to be spending those tax dollars here. It's just a win-win.
Absolutely. And so those are the types of conversations that this campaign is having with constituents.
Awesome.
This is the kind of conversations that we are having with local unions that represent not only South Stockton, but the entire Central Valley. So again, this campaign really is about a people's movement.
Definitely.
All hands on deck.
Grassroots.
Yes,
all the way.
All the way.
And that's awesome. To me, that's important because that also means that the people that are supporting you are the people. It's not big companies. It's not, you're not bought and sold.
Right.
And the decisions that you're making are the decisions that are going to be the best for your constituents. It's not because someone has encouraged you or persuaded you to feel a certain way or vote a certain way.
Right. So that goes along with that Shirley Chisholm unbossed. You know, when you run a clean campaign with no, you know, my contributions have been very minimum for the most part. It's been a majority of unions and individuals who believe in me, and advocates who I've worked with and organized with as well. So I'm very excited.
And I'm excited because to me that means you're a true voice of the people. And going back to what you were saying earlier about social work and people dealing with mental health issues, I believe it was you that taught me last time when you were on the show that there's an even stronger stigma in certain parts of our community with getting help.
Absolutely. And, you know, when you look at the district in particular that I'm speaking on, very limited healthcare services, very limited dental opportunities. And so that is definitely something that I'm looking at as well. Currently, I'm actually doing my dissertation at University of Southern California, and I am exploring policy for homelessness. And so
awesome. That's in my wheelhouse.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. So it's been very inspirational because our cohort actually incorporates social workers not only from California but throughout the United States. So getting into innovative work that other states have done in order to combat homelessness is so inspirational because, as you know, Dr. Julie, homelessness is just the issue. But when you look at the core issues, the causes of homelessness, it's so overwhelming because we can talk about lack of health care. We can talk about poverty. We can talk about the barriers of criminalization and reentry. There's so many obstacles.
Disability, someone dying,
aging, and
mental health,
mental health,
alcohol, depression.
Right. And something that I've learned from you, as a matter of fact, when we talk about homelessness, we don't talk about the companionship that they have to have. And many of them rely on animals. And so it's a hardship for them to vaccinate their animals. That's why I appreciate the work that you do in that way. Feeding their animals. And I know that some people may say, well, if they're homeless, they don't deserve to have a pet. But
they need a pet more than anyone.
Everybody needs companionship.
Definitely.
And so looking at, again, what I call the core issues of homelessness and the core issues of District 6 is something that I can confidently say I have the ability to do.
That's awesome.
As a licensed clinical social worker and soon a doctor in
Yay.
social work.
Woohoo!
Right. I'm excited about that.
I'm excited about that too. That's awesome. And going back to what you were saying about animals, so many people don't realize that animals are not only a source of support, they protect their people. Yes. They're a source of warmth. And I can't fully announce, but I'm in negotiation right now to help one of our local animal shelters help one of our local homeless shelters set up animal facilities. And Excellent. To me, that's great because that's a sector of people that has not been able to access services because their animals are so pivotal to them. And if their animals can't go, they don't want to go. And so that's one more barrier that we're going to be able to remove, hopefully in the next year. So I'm excited.
Love that. And one component that we didn't touch on is the fact that some animals are actually guide dogs.
Yes.
They are actually coping mechanism. Yes. A lot of our veterans who are suffering for PTSD come back, and it is ADA certified animals that help them through that trauma and again provide them with that outlet to cope with their symptoms. I'm so glad you said that.
And there's actually new legislation to provide veterans with free animals just for that reason. And animals can also alert for seizures. They can alert for diabetes, high sugar, low sugar. So many. We're just on the cusp of learning how much animals can do as being companions as part of our life and helping people with all aspects of wellness.
Right. And I appreciate that. Again, these are, and I'm like deep down inside, I'm just like, yes, I love these conversations because my three characteristics is innovation, creativity, and transformation, right?
I like that.
And the innovation is looking at a problem and looking outside the box on how we are addressing it. And so again, when we're talking about the population of homelessness, innovative ways, and like you said, having that having that tool to have an area where they can keep their pets. That's huge.
That's a whole group of people that we can help that we really haven't been able to reach out to before. And the other thing that you said that's really important is you talked about meeting with people from other areas, and people want to say that homelessness is just an issue in California. They want to bash the local government and say that it's just an issue in California, and it's not. Not only is it not nationwide, but it's international as well. And to me, that's just a way to keep kicking the can. And we've kicked the can for the past 20, 30 years. And to me, that's part of why this is in a crisis epidemic state. And the more you kick the can and don't address the root problems, the more it's going to explode.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is, again, like I said, with these cohorts of students I'm working with, it's not just a Stockton thing.
No.
And if we're not working collectively together, not only with other counties, but other states, other countries. One of my professors, Dr. Harry Brown, he's right now he's in Michigan. He actually went to France and did some innovative work in exploring of what they do in France to combat homelessness, and bringing these concepts and ideas together to collectively work. Say that again, because it's very collectively work together to bring solutions and to continue to have conversations on a broader scheme of things. Because again, if we combat and we're solving issues here in Stockton, that isn't going to end the homeless issue. It's an epidemic. And unfortunately, I just think that as a nation, we haven't done a really good job at having a true conversation and bringing solution-focused strategies in order to deal with it. And so that is why I chose homelessness policy as my dissertation, and that will include encompassing true policy that is going to address the issue. And I'm so excited because I think that Stockton has some awesome leaders that are stepping up and thinking about innovative ways to solve the issues. But I think let's all work together and see what we can do.
We're only going to fix it by working together. This is not something that one person or one city, just like you said, can solve. But I also think that Stockton is a magnificent role model in that there's so many cultures and there's such a big issue that if we can find solutions that work here, those solutions should be adaptable for other locations.
Absolutely. And I know that Dr. Hunter was talking about the portable and mobile showers yesterday. They were doing that in Paris. And I proudly said that San Joaquin County has launched similar efforts.
Showered with love.
Yep. Shout outs to Shower with Love in that way. I think a lot of times people want to give food and do the feedings, which is fine. I'm not knocking that. But there are other core elements that need to be addressed simultaneously.
Food and shelter are tier 1. Those are low level, but those are needed for survival. But if you don't give people the tools to move up out of their situation, they're only going to stay where they are or drop below.
Right. And then the stigmas that people have as well. That was one of the conversations that I took, because as I'm progressing on my dissertation, is the stigma and how individuals who are impacted by homelessness do not feel included in that process. And when you're doing a treatment plan with someone, if you don't have the buy-in from the client or the consumer, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
So that is another element that we do.
That's a great point that you mentioned.
Yeah.
We need people that are ready. If it's not something, because a lot of people on social media will say, well, you should arrest these people and force them to go into program X or program Y. And if they are not in the right mental space where they want to make a change, you can force them to do whatever you want, but it's not going to have a lasting impact if they don't have buy-in.
And to some degree, it's criminalizing the issue. And we don't need to be criminalizing the issue. We need to be we shouldn't be criminalizing the person. We need to be criminalizing the issue, especially with California now ranking the 3rd largest economy in the world, not the 5th. We're no longer the 5th. We're the 3rd. Which is huge. And again, I just really wanted to make sure that folks understand that. Not the 3rd in the nation.
Nope.
We are the 3rd in the world. So, yeah.
And you're going to have problems with that. I mean, the problems we are facing are being experienced everywhere. It's just that there's more people here and there's more going on, so things are going to be magnified. And that just makes sense. And we have a climate that also lends itself to people being able to be outdoors more.
Right.
Which is part of the amazing thing about California, but in some ways it's not the greatest because of that.
Right. And then that's a whole nother conversation, because I have to talk about climate change, right?
Yes. So you mentioned homelessness. Let's talk about some of your other top concerns.
So homelessness and definitely the jobs. Jobs has been the feedback that I've gotten in canvassing and being in the community. And last but not least, I think it's a huge issue having to drive, leave the community and go to places that you can shop. I think that is very ridiculous, very inconvenient for people who work and moms having to shuffle those things. And so we need to really have a heart-to-heart conversation about development.
Well, and so many things tie off of what you just said, because education is connected to that, unions are connected to that, and housing. We want our city to be a resource for housing, for jobs, and for entertainment, and to meet all of your needs. You want everything to happen here.
Right.
And that's a win-win for everyone. Again, the more that happens, the more the tax dollars stay here.
Right. And so it really is about that transformation component, not necessarily reinventing what we have, because I think that there's some great framework. Which, when you look at the district is very beautiful. There are opportunities there. So we need to transform those opportunities to make it conducive to people who live in our district.
Definitely. Yeah. And going back to jobs here, we also need a workforce that has the education level to be able to do those jobs. And if not the education level from college-based union, like what we said earlier, and the stronger our community is, the better the quality of life will be.
Right. And that goes back to also inspiring individuals in our community and uplifting in a positive way. There's so much negativity that's going on, and it's impactful, not only for just adults, but our youth. I do work at a school, and I tell you that they are constantly on social media. And so I just think that we need to be creating social media outlets that are healthy, that are encouraging, that is uplifting of our community, especially our youth, because they're the ones who are going to be driving the car very soon. And so we want to make sure that they are being mentored in a positive light.
Definitely. We need mentors and to motivate and inspire, because otherwise our youth will take a direction that we don't want. And we've talked about in the past that our youth is in the demographic for suicide. They're very high for suicide.
Right. And there's been some unfortunate tragedies with our youth and suicide. Suicide is it's on the rise. It's currently on the rise. And again, this is a subject matter that I haven't been exploring and investigating in depth of the core issues of the suicidality. A lot of times it is undetected, but you have to ask yourself, why is this happening when we are, quote unquote, in an era where we do have, again, the third largest economy? So where are the resources and supportive services for our youth? It's mind-boggling that it's not available.
It is mind-boggling.
And
even when it's available, people might not know, which actually connects to two other things. In our community, we're fortunate to have 211, which Senator Kathleen Galgiani helped to put into place.
Yes.
And we're also on the verge of starting with United Way and Dignity Health and some other organizations, a communication network where referrals can be made and you can track the outcomes. And to me, that's amazing, because it's one thing to have the resources, but if people don't know that they're available or how to access them, you're still in the same place.
Right. And another thing that I have talked about when we we had the mental health proclamation for the trauma-informed care in August of 2019. Or no, maybe it was September. We should have more opportunities for mental health that are outside the typical 8 to 5. So typically mental health in probably not just Stockton, but throughout the nation, mental health stops at 5. Well, people are just getting off work at 5. Kids are just coming at home. Like, we need to create more pockets and opportunities to provide services that are non-traditional.
That
like
makes so much sense. When you said that, that's a no-brainer. And I think about, I work ER, and I work ER because people need care for their animals that are after hour. And mental health is the same way. If parents are at work or kids are in school, they're not going to be able to access the normal hours for resources.
Right. And I like to add alongside of that pharmaceutical. So that's also an issue. The pharmacies, for the most part, are done on Friday at 5. And so with that being said, what if you have parents who are commuting, parents who have multiple kids and multiple, obligations and cannot. So again,
we do have some of those, though. I know that there's Walgreens, there's several that are 24 hours, and I think there's some others. I think that at least is less. But what you said about being able to get services, that's just overwhelming when you think about it, because it's so logical and yet it's never talked about.
Right. But back to the pharmaceutical element. So with the Walgreens and the CVS, there's been times that they've been out of medication. So if
really?
Especially some of the common like antidepressants and the ADHD medications, a lot of times they're out of Adderall because there's so many individuals. The need is so intense. So I just think that we don't have the resources to ensure equity. And so especially like those who live South Stockton, nearest one is Harding Way. So if everybody's competing to go to Harding Way, you may not have the enough of the medications to the need, supply and demand, I guess, right?
And if you don't have a car, then that's a whole
nother conversation. Because on the weekends, on the weekends, we don't even have a bus line in Western Ranch at all. So I'm not sure because I don't ride the bus, and that's a blessing, but are they it used to be on the weekends, there were every hour. The buses ran on every hour. And so let's start looking at supply and demand and making sure that resources are spread through the community equally.
I couldn't agree more. And earlier I had mentioned, and you talking about Harding, because Harding to me is also, we talked about food deserts and we talked about food swamps, and Harding unfortunately is a food swamp, meaning that there's lots of fast food, but there's very few supermarkets, there's very few places to get fresh produce. And so unfortunately, people that live in that area may or may not have transportation to go out and purchase fresh produce. And so they're often purchasing fast food or other items that are within walking distance. That only adds and compounds this, because it's linked to health issues like being overweight, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and you can go on and on down the line.
And that's problematic. But again, this community is going to need leadership that's going to be able to articulate the needs in that way. Not only because it's not right, but also the consequences if it's not changed, such as health issues, such as mental health issues sometimes. And even the environmental trauma that can lead to depression. I mean, can you imagine not having access and feeling hopeless? What is that going to result to in a year's time or 2 years time? We're talking about other elements of mental health like anxiety and depression, because you feel helpless.
And that area doesn't have a high level of green space either,
right,
compared to other parts of Stockton. So there's not a lot of parks there, and the air is not as clean.
Right. Right. And so again, that climate, it's a whole nother conversation.
But it leads to depression and anxiety and all those other things that you're talking about.
And a combination of health issues. And so I just think that we are in a state as a community where the conversation needs to be shifted and fast. Because these are barriers to community members. This is a problem. And that's where we need to be outraged at. We need to be outraged at the issue. We need to be outraged at, solutions need to be at the forefront. Quick, fast, in a hurry.
Definitely. I like that. Quick, fast, in a hurry. And I want you to think about 5 solutions and 5 ways that you can make a change. But while you're thinking about that, I'm going to make one more comment about that area. There was a library that was closed, and it may not be specifically in that district, but it's in that area. And it was a grassroots effort that made that library reopen. Mm-hmm. And to me, again, it emphasizes the lack of resources in that area. And there's a whole part of our community, not just in South Stockton, but also in East Stockton, that's experiencing the same thing. And it saddens me. But at the same time, I'm excited because I feel like you will be a tremendous leader to fight for people and to fight for resources and a better quality of life. And it's scary to me that we can close a library to a sector of the community that is already disenfranchised and think that it's fine. And it really took a monumental effort to change that and reopen the library. Yeah.
And I think also having that conversation about illiteracy and looking at the areas and communities that are impacted by illiteracy. And as you know, having the ability to be literate, it can lead to endless opportunities. And
it builds bridges. It creates bridges.
Right. So if we're really talking about workability for disenfranchised or disinvested communities, literacy is at the top of the list. And even if it's vocational, like how are you going to be able to work, I don't know, with the plumbing union or the cement union, and you don't know how to read? Mm-hmm. That's a problem. Mm-hmm. That's a huge problem.
You can't read safety things. You can't read how to. You're lost.
Right. And there's still, even if you're, within the union, there's still an apprenticeship process. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to be able to attend that and pass those classes. And so, when we're disenfranchising opportunities to be exposed to reading, that's not okay. I know for me as a mom, I think that now with the Dolly Parton books for kids, part of the Rotary project, I think it's now open to the entire city.
Which is wonderful. It used to be certain zip codes.
Yeah. But the reason that it was certain zip codes is because the illiteracy rates in those zip codes were so high. And I would like to think that that is also a preventative. I know for me, my kids got that book. And my youngest son, who's 4, he still gets that book.
Wonderful.
And it is just a wonderful opportunity for the kids to run to the mailbox to get that book.
That's exciting. And I'm so glad that you shared that it's throughout the city, because I didn't know that. And for people that are not aware, you can go and sign your kids up to the age of 5, I believe. And they get a free book once a month?
Once a month.
Which is huge.
Again, it's huge. My son would run to the mailbox, and all my kids, I think my youngest 3 kids got the books, and so they knew when the book was coming. It comes, it's dependent on when you sign up for the program. So if you sign up on the 10th, you get your book every 10th of the month. So the kids know, and they run to the mailbox and grab the book, and you sit down and you read it.
And not only you think about it with reading, but it actually does so much more than reading, because it's bonding time between a family member and a child to read to them. It makes the kid feel important. It gives them hope. It gives them something to look forward to.
Yes.
And to me, there's so much value in that besides just the fact that it's a book and it belongs to them.
Right. And my daughter, who's in the 2nd grade, reads about the 4th grade reading level because she loves books so much. She reads them, she buys them, she loves them.
That's awesome.
And I really attribute a lot of that to going to the mailbox for the first 5 years of her life.
That's awesome.
Getting the book.
That's awesome. And to me, it's also amazing that we have people like Dolly Parton and organizations like Rotary who have invested back into communities and realize how important it is to provide services for people that help them move up.
Exactly. And hopefully it'll give kids an opportunity to throw it back, right? And play it forward. So maybe that's something that they, I don't know, like my kids, after a while, we'll donate our books to maybe Haven of Peace or another local charity.
I love Haven of Peace.
Yeah, I do. It's
Olga is amazing.
Yeah. But
Olga Rodriguez.
Paying it back
is huge. So earlier I asked you to tell me 5 ways that you feel that you can make a difference. And also I'd like to know from you, how do you feel the average citizen can make a difference?
Okay, so let's go with the average citizen. So I think the average citizen should and could make a difference by getting involved, by taking a stance on an issue. I think that local government and government collectively can only get us so far.
Definitely.
I think that volunteerism is something that is definitely needed. I think that speaking out on an issue, and not only that, but circling back, what can you get back? Because again, one person or one individual or one level of government isn't going to get us out of the issues that we have. It's going to be really about collective working. So what is your role in that process? What are you able to do? Are you able to pick something up, pick up some trash in your community, empower the youth in your community that
have
may
a
need
neighborhood
that.
watch.
Have a neighborhood watch. Why not?
Vote.
Oh, that's important too. Vote. Like Obama said, don't boo, vote. So let's go to the 5 things that I think that I will have the greatest impact on, or 5 issues.
Or ways that you're going to make a difference. Whatever you want to talk about.
So the first one is definitely going to be the homelessness policy. That is my passion. In fact, in 2009, my thesis was homeless veterans and the barriers that they face accessing mental health services. In fact,
even health services.
Yeah. So I wrote a book that was dedicated to the veterans in this community, and also in 2009, and I also spoke out about the need for the veterans clinic, which I'm glad that it's finally taken place. It's been y'all don't understand, this conversation has been going on since 2007, 2008-ish.
It's crazy.
So this is huge that it's finally breaking ground.
Different flood level qualifications, the number of architectural designs, at least 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that that's taking place. And I have a lot of respect for the veterans. My father is a veteran, and has served this country in the Army, and so was my stepdad. And my grandfather served in the Navy and the Marines. And so I really want to be the voice for veterans as well, and making sure that they have access to services and treatment. Because again, while we're talking about this, the new breaking ground for the homeless hospital and clinic, there will be some transitional issues that I'm pretty sure will happen. So making sure that they have that voice. And then the third one is being transparent. I think that for a lot of issues we see where people get confused, whether it's a city issue or a board of supervisor issue or a state issue or a federal issue.
And there's a lot of overlap, too.
And there's a lot of overlap as well. But I think that I will have the ability to be that transparent bridge between local governments. And last but, I got two more. So my fourth one is going to be jobs. Poverty is intersectional in a lot of issues. Poverty is intersectional in crime. Poverty is intersectional in mental health. Poverty is intersectional in housing and just ability to live. And so I will be tackling issues surrounding jobs and economic stability, growth, and making sure that Stocktonians have access to ... jobs. It's huge.
Awesome.
And last but not least, it's probably going to be youth services and mentorships, and just making sure that families have that bridge, not only to youth programming, but just mentorship, because that's needed. There's a lot of single moms out there who may not have access to positive male figures, but there may just be a married couple that still needs mentorship and guidance and inspiration and encouragement for their youth. Definitely. I think that we need to be building our youth. I think that we need to be loving our youth. They have so many obstacles against them. Again, social media, I'm learning to probably stay off of it a little more because there's a lot of toxicity in it.
Definitely.
And unfortunately, that's an outlet that our youth are accessing. So let's change not only the narrative, but the narrator as well.
Definitely. I think that's very valuable, what you said. And you mentioned lots of single moms. And in our community, not only are there a lot of kids that are raised by single parent households, but also grandparents. Maybe there's no parents, or foster as well.
Absolutely.
Very high percentage.
Absolutely. And again, we don't want to leave out those parents who are going around that Altamont every day as well. And so
commuter parents.
A lot of what we used to call latchkey kids. Mm-hmm. So let's give them another outlet so that they can remain positive.
Well, and again, if the living wage jobs were here, then that wouldn't be happening as much.
That's true. Very much.
And we also need affordable housing here.
Oh, yes, ma'am. That's huge. That's another issue that people are speaking out of, is the wages not being able to match the cost of living here, rent and food, because everything kind of goes downhill. It's a domino effect with some of these things. So rent, which leads to electricity, which leads to water, et cetera, food.
And we can put medications in there too, because if the cost of medications make them inaccessible, then no one's getting the help they need.
Yeah, there was one article I was just reading. I was thinking about you when I read it. So I can't think of the state, but they're capping the skyrocketing cost of insulin. And I was like, yes, because people shouldn't have to choose. I know for myself, I have really bad asthma. And so I require 4 pumps, and it depends on the time of year. Usually spring is really bad for me because I have allergies as well. So sometimes I require up to 4 asthma pumps, and depending on like the patent thing and, the market of the particular brand, I can pay anywhere between $80 to $120 just for one prescription.
Yeah. And it's crazy. So when you mention insulin, and I'm going to connect that back to EpiPens also, you're talking about 2 drugs that have been available for years and years. The patents have expired on them. And so it's not like we are paying back for research that has been done on these medications. It's just greed based.
Yep.
And to me, our politicians should be working hard daily to block that and to make medications available to everyone. And to me, I worry about our seniors.
Yes.
Because our seniors are on a fixed income. They're not able to go get a job, most of them, and work a full-time job to be able to pay for things if they don't have, equity that they've saved up. And a lot of their medications are newer medications where the prices are, high because they're paying back on research that's been done to make those drugs available.
Isn't that shameful? And I'm glad you mentioned that. So when I got my master's degree, geriatric social work was my original major, but then somehow I floated over to children's. However, a lot of our senior support resources have really decompensated, like
dwindling.
Yes, dwindling. We had previously linkages and MSSP, different case management programs that are no longer here, as well as our senior day programs. Seniors mostly isolate because there are no opportunities for them to be out there socializing. And then when we talk about the money that they have saved, or even their Social Security benefits, that's nowhere near. Some of those seniors they have calculations that were based off 10 years ago that do not mirror the cost of living costs currently. And so they continue not only to struggle with their medications, but literally being able to pay their bills
and food
and support, and the list goes on and on. So,
and if they feel isolated, they're going to be more prone to depression.
Yes.
And it's just a cycle.
And then we wouldn't know that because many of them won't have access or resources to even get to the doctor. It's mind-boggling.
It's crazy. And we could go on and on. I could talk to you for hours.
I know.
I'm going to ask you now, because we're wrapping things up, I'd just like you to give a final couple words on what you want people of our community to know about you.
Well, so last few words, I'm going to take this opportunity to invite people to go to my website at www.voteforkim.com. No, I think it's votekim2020.com. And that will give you an opportunity to get a little more familiar with me. I just want people to know that I'm a mother, I'm an organizer, I'm an educator, I'm a commissioner, I'm a social worker.
You're amazing.
Right. I've chaired things. I've worked collectively in Western Ranch. And I've lived in every area of the district, from B Street to Conway Homes to Sacramento Street. I've lived in almost every element of the district. I grew up here, so my roots are deeply embedded in this district. I've worked at Wendy's. I've janitored bathrooms. I've pulled myself up to go to school and get through school. I'm still in school. Because I just feel like the more education and opportunity to expose myself to platforms of change, the better equipped I will be to address issues on a larger scheme. And so it's an honor to be a candidate, and I'm very proud of the work that we have done.
I'm so proud of you. You're amazing.
And we'll continue to do. And with my training with Emerge of California, shout out to Emerge. Yeah, shout out to Emerge.
Emerge 2020.
Yes. And congratulations on your Emerge acceptance. I'm very excited for you. I think
and that you helped me with that.
Yeah, I think you will learn a lot.
Thank you.
But being a woman in this race is an honor. So shout out to every woman who's running.
And really quickly, how can people get a sign? How can they help you with precinct walking? How can they donate to your campaign?
Oh, excellent question. Going back to the website, voteforkim2020.com. Taking all donations if possible. Warmsley for City Council and Act Blue, you can find me as well. Yeah, and then just give me a call.
And the election is coming up in March.
March 3rd, 2020, and I'm excited.
And can people still register to vote?
Yes, they can. They have till February 22nd to register to vote for a ballot in the mail. But you can also register to vote on the same day at any voting pool as well.
Please vote. Please register to vote. You need to use your voice. Your voice matters.
Absolutely. And I really thank you for this time. It was wonderful.
So awesome to have you, and I respect you, and I pray for you, and all the positive things that you're doing are amazing, and the many hats that you wear. I don't know how you do it. And I'm honored that you came to the show today.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And I'm right back at you. And all I can say is every day I pray.
And let's just mention your website one more time.
It is www.votekim2020.com.
And you're on Facebook.
I am on Facebook. So it's Kimberly Warmsley, candidate for Stockton City Council. And also I have a YouTube where you can go and find my campaign videos. It's Healing the District 6.
And then just one more comment on women. We need to support each other.
Yes.
Because when one of us wins, we all win. And when you tear down one another, everyone loses.
Absolutely. And women have it the hardest. We have it the hardest. We're looked at more closely, with a microscope. So tearing other women down is not, it's not okay. And I don't care what party affiliation you may be or you may not be.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. It's really about women supporting women as well. So thank you.
All right. Thank you again. And with that, I'm going to sign off. I am the voice of San Joaquin. You are the voice of San Joaquin. We are the voice of San Joaquin. Let's make it a great day.
Thank you.